Call the LNR meeting to order, January 15th at 4:45. Roll call.
Ken Minell,
Here.
Ron Dunwoody,
Here.
Gary Payson Jr.
Here. Alrighty, tonight we are looking at discussion of possible decision on regarding the child safety zone. Who do you want to start here?
This was brought up a long time ago, and we've had the maps probably for a while. Just a refresher, I believe we talked about this at the last LNR meeting. This topic was on the agenda. That City of Lake Geneva currently has a 2,000-foot radius. City of Delavan has 1,000 foot. City of Whitewater is 750 feet. City of Burlington is 300 feet. I only went off of other cities, not towns or villages. And in your packet, you have the current map with the 2,000-foot buffer. We made a 500-foot per Alderman Payson Jr.'s request a long time ago. And we also made 1,000-foot just so you guys could see the differences, compare them, and hopefully if any amendments are going to be made, you can make a better decision with more options. So you guys can review the maps. If you have any questions, we can try to answer them. If you approve changing the maps, the next step would be to amend the ordinance. Everything was originally created in 2014, and I do not see that there's been any updates since.
So what if we do nothing? We just leave it as it is?
Then we will be scheduling a committee of the whole meeting as soon as possible because we have at least one, if not two, appeals.
May I be heard?
Yes.
In years past, the appeal process.
Correct.
Okay, I recant.
It's been a while. There was a lot of questions about the zoning or the buffer and the city ordinance, and we were tasked with coming up with alternatives. Unfortunately, it was pushed to the back burner, and now it's back on the front.
Chief, do you have any input as far as the buffer goes?
As far as what you're looking at for,
It's 500 right now, right?
No, it's 2,000.
1,000 right now.
2,000?
This one. 2,000.
Excuse me. 2,000.
it is 2,000 right now.
Yeah.
And I believe someone made a kind of a petition or to the council or the committee at one point in time, I think concerned about the 2,000 feet and whether that was even permissible and whether or not they were going to be looking to challenge previously. If my recollection is correct.
Quite a while ago, but yes, that
Yes.
was done.
Yes, and I think I've been on record before that this ordinance in and of itself, I don't believe enhances any public safety by any stretch of the imagination. I think I've said before, if anything, I think it's counterintuitive. Because if you have an offender that, right now, we've only come across offenders once they've notified the registry that they're moving to an address that's within a restricted area. That's how we've come to become aware of potential violations. So again, if someone is going to be residing in an area that is in violation, I fear that we're just encouraging them not to report a correct address with the registry. Yes, they're in violation of the law by doing so, but I don't think that makes the community any safer. So I've never been a proponent of the restrictions, because I think it's counterintuitive to public safety. I get the understanding that it may be, you don't want to become an area where offenders look to all reside, but at the same time, I don't think it enhances anything as far as the safety of the public. I'd rather know who my neighbors are.
I share the chief's opinion for what it's worth, Chairman. I want to point out that this is not something that Joel and I think. This is something that, we got from probation and Department of Probation and Parole and other experts. I read study after study on this when the probation and parole experts came and spoke to the council. I can't even remember how long ago.
Several times.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it was a long
Scott-
time ago.
Scott
too.
and I were both on at the
Right, but I
time.
mean, they've been here multiple
Yeah.
times talking about the same topic.
Yeah,
I don't
and
think their posture has changed at all.
no, it hasn't, and their attitude is if you do this and then they don't report or they become homeless, either way, then they're unaccounted for. And if we can keep them accounted for, that's really what you want. And again, I think just it's counterproductive to the chief's point. And when we think of these types of people, we tend to paint them with a brush as a dangerous character that's jumping out of the bushes in a trench coat. And that's really, you have everything in you have your Romeo and Juliet situations where somebody gets on the list where they're 19 and the girlfriend is 16. And then you get everything up to the dangerous pedophiles. So, but those people are not the people we're dealing with either, because they're not out in the community. They're locked away. So I would encourage you to take the chief's words and heed them. But if we're going to have this ordinance, I think one of the conversations Chief and I had was this would be at 500, we would be consistent with the recommendations for the ordinances if they have them. I think there was some kind of a directive from the county. Am I remembering that right?
I don't know if it was a directive from the county. I'd have to go back and check what the state statute is for some of the 980 offenders.
Yeah. I
just
just
to
remember
see.
we were talking about this, and at one point we said, we're not consistent with the county's ordinance or something. We were going to try to make ours consistent with what other communities and county was doing, and it looks like you found a range from all over the place. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. That answer any
And
questions?
of course, the county's posture, 500 feet's easy to do when you live on County A and you're near.
Right.
Yes,
They're totally, I mean, they're not apples and oranges in my opinion.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
And it's also assuming that if we don't have an ordinance, that people are still gonna be honest and report themselves anyway.
Well, they've got a condition of their probation and parole usually that requires that. Am I, Chief, is that right?
Not just probation and parole, the law itself. If they're required to register with the registry,
Mhm.
then they must maintain that address
Or
with
they
the
could
registry.
risk revocation or.
Not
going back.
revocation, they could risk another offense, a criminal
Okay.
offense.
So I guess to your point, Alderman Payson, is does the ordinance violation make them more likely to report or less likely to report or have any impact on it at all? And if they're facing a criminal charge that they could get sent back inside for, I don't think the ordinance is affecting their decision-making one way or the other.
What is the current either appellate or state?
It's always being challenged.
Right.
I don't think such ordinances have been overturned as a matter of law. I don't know if there was a challenge to our particular ordinance, if the fact that we are not consistent with some recommendation or some other community would impact its enforceability or not. I don't think it would.
Okay,
That's my impression.
thank you.
Any thoughts?
I don't wanna explain to my neighbors or anybody else in the city why we're reducing and potentially putting their family at risk. Whether it's true or not, it's perception. And that's what people are gonna look at. You know, they're gonna say, oh, it's okay to have it next to me, but not next to you.
Sure, because if you go from, even from 2,000 to 1,500.
Right.
These three houses now suddenly are included. or-
Bingo.
Yeah, I get it.
Mhm. So we do have a responsibility as well to try to protect the community, even if the data says one thing. I will tell you that the government's not always correct on the data that they provide, and we won't go into those. But we all know that the government's not 100% correct on what they tell the communities, at state level or federal level, or any level for that matter.
All right.
Sure.
My question is, I think this ordinance, isn't it at least 10 years old, 12 years old? 15, it's like
2014.
a couple years ago, at least.
At least.
Have there been any instances since this was enacted where someone has fallen through the cracks, been homeless, whatever, and has reoffended or, you know, been found that way in the last 10, 12 years? I mean, has there been any instance where you could connect the dots from this ordinance to somebody being unaccounted for to committing a crime?
Paradox built into the question is that if, you know, what's the best criminal? It's the one you don't know about. So we can't be sure, but I don't know if Chief can have instances where we've got it.
I can't think of any that have listed it as homeless that have reoffended. I don't, not off the top of my head, but I guess we're a very small population to it where yeah, I don't know if that would be a good statistic just from a community our size, I think. And I don't know if there's any, I don't even know if you would be able to, if there's data kept on that, because that is just simply a registry designation as far as homeless, if those for that report that. And then the registry would not know of additional criminal charges. I don't know how they would know of additional criminal charges against an individual that reported as homeless, because that's simply filed by each county.
I can remember them talking about recidivism when they were talking to us in the past, and they said the recidivism rate on sexual offenders is lower than the normal recidivism rate for criminal activity generally, but that's all I remember on that topic.
Didn't we also talk at one point where we were gonna take it case by case, where they would actually come to the committee of the whole and we'd review it case by case?
That's what
Versus
we do now.
doing
Yeah.
a blanket statement, then why don't we just keep it the way it is?
And I'm trying to think of, you know, in the Wayback Machine, 21st year, did you tell me? 20th year? Anyway.
We had one.
I can think of one person that appealed. Hardcore stuff, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to move out of your mom's house.
I think we've only allowed one exception. That's what I'm remembering, is one guy we allowed to stay.
I know there's been one, has there been more? Because I can only remember the one as well that has been permitted to reside at a residence that would be in violation of this ordinance. I don't, all the other appeals, I thought you have asked them to vacate.
Pretty much across the board.
The other one that I recall was not long after I got in the council was somebody that wanted to go
Live with their mother.
like the car show or something like that.
No, well, yeah.
That was just to visit a
Right.
certain location, I'm
Right.
talking an actual
Right.
residence.
But we did have one that he was getting out, wanted to live with his mother. Last year,
Yeah.
sometime, I believe it
Yep.
was.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, no, we weren't gonna change it, and that wasn't all right. I remember that. I don't think he ever appealed it, to my
Well,
knowledge.
that was his appeal. He didn't go to the circuit court, I guess, would be the next place from
All right,
here.
but we did have one.
Someone who's better at math or percentages of geometry. What percentage of the city are we talking about here?
I think-
This is damn near the whole
I
city,
think
except
you-
for this little piece here and a little piece.
I
up
think
here.
you're hitting the nail on the head, Scott. I think that's why we brought it back, because that's what's gonna get you into any problems is what housing stock, what number, what percentage is actually available for someone to reside, and it's a very small percentage right now. What that is, I don't know, but I think that's why, The
think
city
that's
attorney
right.
was trying to be kind of proactive so that you aren't subjected to litigation.
If you block out the whole city, which is
Clearly. gonna
close
get
to
you
what you've got here.
Right, I
Um,
was gonna say like 96% maybe?
Yeah, that would be hard to justify and say that you were in any way not doing just sort of a dragnet, you know, you're not allowed here, period.
Good 80% or more.
Yeah.
That's 1,000.
That's 1,000?
And to your point, Alderman, at some point, you're right, there's an arbitrary thing, and if you move it at all, somebody's gonna not be happy. It's, and if you don't move it, somebody's gonna not be happy, but if you change it at all, I think you're increasing your chances of it being upheld. That's a fair statement.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking, and I know they're not exactly the same, but I'm looking at the difference between,
Not much of a difference.
yeah. I don't see one that says 1,500, I know we've got a 5. Anyway, my first thought is, to your point, is to leave it as is. Is it? And like you said, you wanna be the one to tell someone that they're now in the 50.
Ron?
I think I'd be inclined to leave it as of now. We haven't had any major issues as far as challenges or appeals or anything like that. I'd say leave it. See what comes up.
Matter of fact, I'd make a motion to leave it as it is.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Roll call?
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes?
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes. So, we need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.